star in Omaha, Nebraska. And that star is none other than Doug McDermott.
McBuckets.
The one and only. Creighton's Doug McDermott hits the 3,000 career point mark. He's closing in fast, and after Sunday night's 29 points against Seton Hall, the soon-to-be National Player of the Year sits at 2,917 points. Next chance to close in on that milestone Saturday at Xavier. So if he's the Player of the Year in college basketball, who will finish second? Here to help us answer that is our good friend, Seth Davis. You see him everywhere, on TV and bookstores, online here on Campus Insiders. So Seth, will ask you, who is the second best player in college basketball this year?
I actually think, Ray, that this question is as clear as the first question, which is who's the best player. I've said if you don't vote Doug McDermott for National Player of the Year, then you don't deserve a vote. But I think if you go from the beginning of the season until now, the most consistent and dominant player in college basketball, not named Doug McDermott, is Jabari Parker. He had about a 2-week span where he was less productive, but his numbers were still pretty good. And the way that he has reinvented his game on the fly and become more of a power player, I think almost to the detriment of his jump shooting. But when you talk about scoring and rebounding and winning, I think Jabari Parker, the freshman from Duke, is your clear number 2 choice.
Now, Seth, I got to disagree with you. I don't think it's an obvious choice. I think Kyle Anderson from UCLA out there in the Pac-12, we haven't been talking about him nearly enough. He's been a stat stuffer for this team. 15 points a game, 9 rebounds, 7 assists, 2 steals, 1 block. I mean, I couldn't even read it all if I tried. He also has the intangibles. He's become the primary handler. But what's most impressive to me is how efficient he's been. He's shooting 50% from the field and 50% from beyond the arc. From freshman to sophomore season, he's improved. I know the NBA scouts love that because it shows the growth. He shot 21% from the three-point line in his freshman season. He's almost doubled the percentage there. His impressive in how he's been handling the ball, the primary handler, he's doubled his assists. He's getting his teammates involved. So much has been asked of this kid, and he continues to deliver time in and time out. I think he's probably gone after this sophomore season because the scouts are drooling. But what he's doing is LeBron James-esque out there on the West Coast. Seth, you know about the West Coast, man.
Well, you know, of course, those two teams played each other, and I believe that Parker pretty badly outplayed Kyle Anderson, and I would counter that if Kyle Anderson was that good, his team might be in the top 25. But there's no question. I think it's a great point, Jordan. He's had a tremendous year. I would look also, you know, there are 3 guards in the American Conference right now. If I were to make my All-American team, I might put all 3 of those guys on my first team, and that's Shabazz Napier, Sean Kilpatrick at Cincinnati, and Russ Smith at Louisville, who very quietly has really improved upon what he did last season. So certainly no shortage of good choices. And the other guy, by the way, that I would throw into this mix is Julius Randle at Kentucky, a guy who's drawn double and triple teams all season long. Again, I really look for consistency when we're talking about Player of the Year, All-American, postseason accolades, and Julius Randle has been as consistently dominant as just about any other player in the country.
Absolutely.
All right, let's talk now about the ACC and Seth, specifically North Carolina. Where do you think they deserve to be seated?
Well, you know, this is very much in flux, Ray. I mean, right now we have to remember that this team overall still has a lot of pretty bad losses. We know about UAB and Belmont, but let's keep in mind they also lost to Wake Forest and at home to Miami in conference play. So their overall resume is still weighing them down a little bit. Obviously, some good wins of late. Right now, I would put them as maybe a 5 or a 6 seed. Pretty favorable schedule down the stretch. You're talking about at North Carolina State, at Virginia Tech, home Notre Dame, and then at Duke. So if they go 3-1 in those games and acquit themselves well in the ACC tournament, I could see them getting to the 4 line. Outside chance at a 3, but I think the 4 line is going to be their ceiling here.
Yeah, Seth, I know as you look at that schedule, too, a big thing is they haven't really done that much on the road. So I think that game at Duke, the last game of the regular season, is going to be one for a litmus test to see what kind of team they truly are. Can they win that game? But what I don't understand is, you know, everyone's talking about Arizona and you lose Brandon Ashley and, you know, the team needs to figure out its identity. Well, Carolina was in the same situation with P.J. Hairston gone, Leslie McDonald gone. McDonald comes back, but he had to get acclimated. And I think now Carolina's found their identity. They've won 9 in a row. I think this is a team that deserves the high seed, may not get it. And to be honest, I think they'd probably be better almost as a lower seed. I think this team thrives at its best when people don't expect a lot out of them. I think if they get an opportunity to be an 8 or 9 seed, now that's probably not realistic because I'd say they're probably a 6 or 7, but they win more games in a tournament, I believe, if they get an 8 or 9 seed as opposed to a 3 or 4. They haven't been that good with the bullseye on their back.
Well, it's a great point because I do think psychologically they've been under the radar, and that certainly has been a help. You know, and the tournament, Jordan, as you know, always comes down to matchups. One of the problems about being an 8 or a 9 seed is if you win that game, your next game is going to be against a 1 seed. So that's really not a favorable position to be. But you could be a 6 seed and have a team that doesn't match up very well with you. You know, if a team doesn't have a lot of size or they have some ball handling issues with their pressure defense, then you know, North Carolina could be dangerous. But I think they're going to be a dangerous tournament team. They're a little bit up and down in terms of their scoring. They do have front court depth, but they don't have any single outstanding front court player. I think Kennedy Meeks, their freshman, could eventually become that player, but his body's just not in shape right now to pull 25, 30 minutes in a high-level game. So I think, look, if you talk about North Carolina, you look back at where they were, you know, in early January when they were losing a lot of games in a row, all looked lost. I think they've clearly found their stride. And, you know, they do have some impressive wins. Remember, they have beaten the top 4 teams in the preseason AP Top 25. I think that's the first time that's ever happened. So psychologically, they're in a good place. The seed, again, is going to be a reflection of their overall body of work. That's why I try to differentiate people between what a selecting and seeding lineup should look like and what a top 25 poll should look like. When I submit my ballot, I'm looking at where people are right now, but what the selection committee does is take that overall resume, and there are definitely a lot of blemishes on North Carolina's overall resume.
Seth, always a great education whenever you're on. Quickly, while we've got you, what's on deck for the Seth Davis Show?
The Seth Davis Show, well, tomorrow I'm going to be interviewing Dougie McBuckets live from Omaha and probing. I'm very interested to talk to him about what it's like to be coached by his dad all his life. I'm a father of 3 young boys, and I've coached him some, and I've seen father coaches be in that situation, and most of them, frankly, don't handle it all that well. So obviously Greg McDermott must have done something right, including recruiting his own son. So that's what we'll be talking about tomorrow.
All right, great stuff. And reminder, all 40-plus episodes of the show right here on CampusInsiders.com. Seth, thanks again very much.
Thanks, guys. Great talking to you.